Good morning, Crow.
Hey, hey, hey.
We're going to have a fun SIRT meeting.
I think it'll be fun but short. That's my prediction, but I'm normally wrong.
Actually, the security and happy hour has lots of videos on SIRT. I've watched 2 out of like the 5 now.
They're almost all about SIRT.
Oh, awesome. I actually am really enjoying going through it. It's giving me a lot of ideas. I plan on making other commits and into the other plans, helping out where I can. But I've kind of really gotten into it. I won't lie.
Cool. That's good to hear. I'm glad to something adds value to the universe. And I'm very excited about our education podcast once that gets started.
Yeah. So what did you want me to do about, because I know that you had podcast on there. Did you want me, and I know that you have the budget for the podcasting equipment in the education SIG. Do those two go together? Should I link those? Or what should I do?
Should be one and the same. Should
Well,
be the
we
same
have
goal, different milestones, maybe.
Okay. We have it mentioned, like refer to education, but we don't have it like listed. So I wanted to make sure they are one and the same so I can connect them. Okay,
Yep,
cool.
yep. And what we'll want to do is figure out like how we want to deliver, what channels we want to deliver the content on, and then just do like a little tick box like, oh, this is threat modeling. We need to have a class, a lab, and let's do a podcast.
Cool. Okay, cool.
Or we want to make a threat modeling mascot.
I was actually talking to Glenn about this because he says that threat modeling is
modeling honey badger.
Well, Glenn was telling me that threat modeling is the most underserviced side of all of cybersecurity.
I might agree with that.
Because he told me that Threat Dragon's not a solution. Because I tried bringing that up already.
It's okay. Better than nothing.
Yeah.
I prefer bar napkin.
Yeah.
Here's my trust boundary.
Talking to some of the OWASP people, they told me that after a while, you don't need the tools anymore, that you just do it automatically.
Right. But it depends on like if you're trying to put stuff into a report or just kind of how formal your organization is.
Fair.
But have a consistent process so everyone's doing it the same.
Right.
And there's a lot of companies that'll sell you an awesome threat modeling tool.
Yeah. Yeah. There's never a short supply of those.
No. All right, folks, I have posted a link to our agenda for today. If anyone has any new items they'd like to discuss, please put that under opens, and I will ask each of our section leads to type in a brief description of activities. We'll talk about that very shortly. And I'll type in the update for Francis.
Could we add issue 1 to the agenda too, or can I add it?
It's open source. We can do anything.
Well, I think we should.
Please. All right. It looks like we all know each other, or no new friends today, which is okay. I hope everyone's doing well on this November 15th. Let's see. While Randall types, Art, if you want to type in any small updates in section 2, we'll talk about that in a second. So Randall, do you want to verbally give us your update, and then we can we'll take notes.
Yeah, that'd be great. So for my section, I'm finalizing the plan. Pretty much have everything done but 1.4. I also made an issue on issue 1, or comment on issue 1 to add the scope as 1.3 to my document, because we've discussed it before. And I think it's currently in stream 3, but I think it originally was going to move to stream 2, but I'm proposing it and moving it to stream 1 since we're doing the discussions and the surveying of people there. So I figure that after the surveys, we could do the scope, or finalize the scope. But I also kind of put an initial scope in issue 1. But beyond that, I would say check the PR for final updates. And if anything jumps out at you, please make a comment.
And issue 1 is how do we plan to engage researchers and communities, which is something we're working on in stream 1.
Yeah. And I know that these are all going to be combined, but yeah. So.
Any questions for Randall on section 1?
So I think that there is a fair amount of overlap between the engagement with the community and section 1, but I want to understand, and I can't remember off the top of my head because I haven't had my coffee yet, whether or not the intent behind that in section 3 for reaching out to those communities was different than what we had intended for the intent in section 1. Because section 1, if I remember correctly, was about understanding a little bit more of the problem space, doing the level of engagement with the community to hear their concerns, their problems and challenges, and ask them for where we can help or where we can provide the most value and benefit to them, potentially offloading some of that burden. Whereas stream 3 is more of an awareness and an engagement, if I remember correctly. And I want to make sure that we don't lose what the intent behind each of them is. It could be such that because the very nature of engaging with the communities exists across all sections, that we just do a similar line item for that and just make sure that it's covered comprehensively throughout the plan.
Is there a specific, I agree, Emily. Is there a specific goal that you were flagging, Randall? Because I'm looking right now, as we have section 3, it's basically like defining the tooling, hiring people, setting up metrics. I don't see a specific community unless I'm overlooking it. I thought we had already moved it.
I think we Francis had mentioned it, but we never talked about the move to section 2.
Okay.
And because section 2, I know that we're going to be helping Art here with his commitments and whatnot, because I know some things have come up. So that's why I can just knock it out in section 2. And another thing, Emily, I've been looking over a lot of the education from FIRST and a lot of Crow videos and different education in general. And one of the things that FIRST pointed out is that you want to be you want to track your audience and you want to define exactly who you're solving problems for. Yeah. And that's like a big thing for them. And we don't really have that anywhere in the plan.
All right. So with that, what I'm going to recommend then is I think we need a line item in the engagement model section, which is 2.2, to talk about how we engage with them. Or alternatively, in 2.2, you add a line item to defer to the engagement model in 1 for the open source communities and the maintainers as part of that research activity, and then define more specifically about the appropriate engagement as part of going through an incident or doing a communication and collaboration activity.
Fair. Do you think that we should also do I was going to put in or switch 1.3 and make it like actually record the scope. I don't know if we have to go as far as developing personas, but it's heavily recommended by FIRST that if you're going to do a P-cert, you should probably put personas together.
So this is now what I'm also trying to remember. So I apologize for being out for a while. Conferences, they're a pain, but they're fun. So I think in the education SIG, they were also working on personas. And I think it would be beneficial to either issue requirements to the education SIG of the kinds of personas that we're looking for, because I believe their goal with those personas is slightly different.
Yes.
But they would get value in defining the kind of incident response and open source maintainership personas that we are looking for within the CERT. Because I had somebody ask me a question the other day, what is a security engineer? And like, there's all sorts of different flavors and varieties and different focuses. And I think ensuring that we capture those accordingly is really important, but I don't know that it's necessarily within our scope of the plan to actually do the definition of those personas.
I agree. Now, this is a question for Crow, because you and I are both in the education SIG. So the personas that we do have are vastly different from the examples that FIRST gave. Is that okay? Or is that something that I should like think about in education?
Perfectly fine. Again, the education has not received the payload from us yet that we need assistance with CVD training, P-cert training. The vulnerability working group does have a set of personas that we potentially can tweak, better refine, because right now it's a maintainer, finder, supplier, consumer, coordinator. So they're very high level. So if we wanted to, we could dive into and refine like the maintainer persona and have, I am a project contributor, or I am a DevOps engineer, whatever we wanted to focus in on, or I'm a P-cert person.
Right. Fair.
Can I recommend then that we add that as a milestone under understanding the problem space to refine that specific and make that a year one activity? That way we don't have to do it for the purposes of developing the plan, but more of a action item.
And could I, so are we in agreement that I can make that 1.3 and I could also make it a line item to record the scope and maybe review it every year? Because right now, one of the things, Emily, is that we don't really have a scope. So we're kind of going, or what Krob and I have talked about is maybe starting with, it's always come up about facilitating communication. So maybe we could start there. So that way we could start presenting something to the TAC, because that seems to be something that everybody mentioned in my initial discussions about how, oh, I don't communicate with this person because they're hostile, or I don't communicate with this person because they never respond, or, like stuff like that. So I think that would be the most obvious thing that we could solve, like low level, I would say. And then from there, I think every year we could, depending on how that goes, we can expand our scope or maybe even modify our scope if, something's not working or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think 1.3 will be fine for right now. Procedures around outreach to dev communities about our services, I think that's fine. And then just make sure that we add the milestone to refine the existing personas that the Vuln Disclosures Group already has set up as part of that process. That way, if we need to, we can determine if, for example, like a slick sheet needs to be made for one group versus a different group with different careabouts and services, so that we're not like handing them an entire binder full of content.
Okay.
Yeah.
But would you still be of the opinion that it would be important to record like a mission statement somewhere of what we intend to do?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that needs to happen regardless of anything else that we decide.
Okay. What I was going to do is I was just going to add scope to 1.3 and move 1.3 to 1.4. That was all I was going to do. So just that it's there, that there's like a scope, like line item, like it's an actual thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think,
please.
Yep. And reviewing that every year is important.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So I have in the notes, please feel free to edit, delete, augment. Emily notes we want to add refining personas as section 1 to hone in on who our audiences are. This is going to help us craft services to address those viewpoints.
Mhm.
And as a group, we need to craft a mission vision statement around kind of what we are, what we're doing.
Didn't we
Fair.
start that not too long ago?
We've
Because
talked about we need to do it many times, but no one
I
has ever
thought-
put pen to paper yet.
I
Well,
thought
we do have the
Randall-
CIRT skeleton, and I think you help with that, Emily.
Yeah, we do have. We did not take from those materials you and Francis worked on. We didn't
Okay.
transfer that over yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I remember seeing somebody write it and I remember commenting on it. And I think it came from Randall originally, but I'll have to go through my thousands of Google Docs to try to find it.
All right. Any more feedback or questions for Randall on stream 1? All right. Hopefully we've stalled long enough that Art is now ready to give us his update on section 2.
Yes. I don't have, the update is that I observed, I think probably last week, some of the folks on this call worked on it. I saw the milestones. I don't know who put the milestones in. I didn't look carefully at the commit or whatever I should have looked at, but I saw that stuff. That's close to all of it that I've done. I've been out for at least 2 weeks, I think, with travel and such, with day job things. So let me actually find, hold on, let me put the doc. Anyway, I see the milestone sort of format, all fine with me. Nothing on my plate other than continuing to fix the doc. Although just earlier today, I think Emily said something about 2.2 or 1, as in something might need to be added, and I didn't catch what you said, Emily. Otherwise, I don't have anything sort of substantial other than, edit the doc. And yeah, Emily, if you said something about a 2 dot something addition, if you
It was
could
about the
please repeat.
personas.
Oh, personas, that goes in here. Okay, got it.
Yep. It's reference to the personas and the outreach activity that's defined in section 1. Wherever
Oh.
Randall is planning on
1.3 or
1.3.
1.4. I'll make the
And-
edit for that.
Sure, fine.
Art.
Thank you. Okay, yep.
What-
And Art, we are, the clock is
Yes, past due.
rapidly ticking. So I would suggest that we put together a minimum viable CERT set of services and get that out to the group like this week, saying the CERT will commit to do these 3 things as our first year offering, and let people start providing feedback on that. If you want, I'm glad to set aside some time with you to work on that, to figure that out, how many we do, and then we can get it to the group, let people start to comment.
Is
I also
oh,
drafted something for that too, Crow, out of one of your videos about communication.
I was
Like
also going to offer that I have time set aside tomorrow to work on section 2. So Art, if you have any documentation, any ideas or rough notes, please send them over and I'll make sure that we get it included.
sure. Let me let's see. So almost everything I've had as input is in here now. I don't think I have anything sort of new or substantial or different. I was about to ask Krob if that minimum year 1 CSIRT services is something that goes in this doc, or is the top of it, or it's a different doc entirely. This doc is longer than that.
I would say this is going to go into section 2, saying this is our proposed services we want to do for year 2 and if year 1. And then if we want to add in like, hey, in year 2, we could do blah, blah, and blah.
Okay.
I think this would be a good spot to do it because the governing board's going to look at it and they're going to make their choice for funding on kind of what we're planning on doing.
Sure.
There was a governing board TAC meeting last Friday, and there was a strong sentiment from the room that, boy howdy, the governing board would love it if there was some type of threat intelligence capability for the open source. So that is something we could consider, or knack out of hand, depending on what we want to do. But basically their idea was, there's a problem. How do we tell people about this problem? Like, let's say OpenSSL v3, how Mark sent the pre-notification, which was awesome, but downstream consumers were confused, and middle people didn't necessarily do what they were supposed to do.
So I have an idea around solving that problem. However, I think that it's important to call out that there is supposed to be an information sharing work stream. And I don't know what the status of it is, but it might be beneficial, if they exist, to partner with them on that.
So I got the great honor of helping facilitate that group.
Which means you're really busy.
Well, I didn't want to, but I got voted to go show up there.
Voluntold. That's what it's called.
And while the name sounds like, wow, that is exactly what we would want to collaborate with, I believe what the intention is to get members to tell this group of academics, these researchers, like, these are the open source packages I'm using in all my dependencies, and allow the academics to kind of go through and do research and say, hey, banking really uses a lot of OpenSSL.
So not quite the same thing.
Not exactly. Now, they have not taken any steps forward. They have not, that group, that's one of the many groups from the plan that has had no action. So if we come forth with a proposal to say, wouldn't it be great if somebody managed kind of a what is that, an ISAC style knowledge sharing network, that is completely in the realm of possibility. But they're not doing anything, and that wasn't precisely what they had stated they would have liked to have done. Basically, they want to build a giant database
of all the open source components.
And the Anacene guy made.
The security person in me is screaming at how potentially problematic that database is.
Right?
Isn't that what SBOMs are?
Yes, that's the yeah.
It's kind of like expanding upon like the Harvard study.
SBOM will solve that. So yeah, so Crow, you scared me when you said threat something in the beginning.
Threat intel, threat sharing.
No. Yeah, sorry, I anchored on the word threat, and was about to. I was muttering under my breath, knack. We should knack it. But then what you described to me sounds like what a SIRT would do, which would be, hey, there's a thing coming up, notify downstream under embargo, which is a classic kind of, and that should be service one of year one, in my opinion. That's like if the SIRT does only one thing, that should be it, in my opinion. That is the whole key. Of course, as you and many of us, I think, probably know firsthand, you have all the sharing fun that comes along with that. And you have OpenSSL, who went off and made their own policy, which, no judgment, they had reasons to, and they reap what they've sown, and that's their choice. But that's the whole can of worms of getting people to agree to be in the open source CERT secret sharing club or not be in. And it should be done, though, if it's just painful, but I think it's still the right thing. I mean, yeah.
To wax philosophical a bit, I like the idea of, hey, middlemen, you have some work coming up next Tuesday. You better be ready, because all the people in the know, like
already are in the know,
already are doing it and are ready. But this was for the downstream that actually could deliver to the end consumers. That's, I think, what the intention of that notification was. And yeah, it's caused people some feels.
Yeah, I mean, but people don't like not being told either, right? I mean, this is a response to, you didn't tell us, you assholes. You told us and scared us and told us the slightly wrong thing, you assholes. Like, you can't have your, okay, sorry. Randall has his hand up. I'll shut up for a minute.
Randall.
Well, I was adding on to that because one thing that came up during some of the discussions I had with upstream projects is that because they know I'm involved in a lot of packaging, is that we need to stop solving things in isolation because they do cause more problems than not. So I wonder if the threat intelligence is a way of maybe helping address that, so that, because it gets really tricky.
No,
but yeah, upstream really wants us to stop solving things. When I say us, I mean distros and package managers.
Yep. Hey, please, could we, I mean, say what you want, but I'm going to vote. We do not call that threat intelligence. Threat intelligence.
I agree.
Is the APT-17 is coming after your Jimmies with a ransomware malware thing called this. Like that's I believe that's a poor description of threat intelligence. Yeah. Vulnerability, just coordination, coordinated disclosure, vulnerability coordination, whatever.
Early notification system.
Pre-notification, early notification, all good. Threat intelligence will confuse people. It's confusing me. It's causing me pain this morning. Thank you.
You can call it Siren and give it a really fancy logo.
If we want to, that's branding is fine. Just,
oh man, we could get a goose with like a British police hat with a little light. It goes woo woo woo.
Isn't somebody already using the goose for something?
I was thinking more of the mythical variety where you have a goose mer person.
Oh, I can do that.
I like the bin for naming scheme.
Okay. This meeting is now about branding.
Okay.
You can
tell it's my pencil.
Pull back a tiny bit. Hold it. Gotcha. All right. Very nice.
Pencil.
Very good. Is that a SBOM name for that pencil? That's unique.
It is.
Good.
It's back from my data center days.
Okay. Sorry. Section 2, minimum services.
So are you any availability tomorrow, Art? That sounds
I do. Hang on.
Emily's got some time. I know I have some time.
Yeah. Emily, when is your time tomorrow, or anyone else's time?
I cannot do 11 Eastern.
I am,
or 9 Eastern. Everything else I will happily cancel right now. In fact, I'm just going to cancel it anyway.
4 to 5 Eastern. Yeah. Mild preference for not 4 to 5 Eastern. I have something then that I should probably go to. The rest of my day I can make available.
I'm free until 2 and then from 3 to 4.
I'm free for, I have the same conflicts as Crow, but not the TAC meeting. So just the first meeting.
Well, the first one's the education meeting, so you also have that.
Yeah.
The TAC meeting's in an hour and a half.
Yeah. And then I have Jay White's meeting at noon. But that's it.
Do we want to do like
morning?
Like
okay. Morning? Slight preference. We're all on the East Coast, I think. Slight preference for morning, but I could do, like I said, any of those times is fine. 9, 10, 10. Sure. 10 Eastern tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
And if we run out of time, we can continue the conversation in Slack.
Damn it, Slack.
I know.
Once a week, I go figure out why I am not in the, anyway, I'll figure that out. I'll probably be asking you for an invitation again.
I unfortunately turned the thing on my phone, so now it dings all the time. Makes me sad.
My screen.
When I message you at what's like 8 o'clock at my time and like noon midnight here.
Okay. Did someone or more than did maybe Emily and Randall both say you had starts on a Crow? So several of you said you had starts on minimum year one.
Well, Crow told me that we can add on to it. He told me that we need to have something. So I took the ideology of communicating with projects and I made like 3 milestones and I kind of described them. And
And we also have like the skeleton that
I know. I have the skeleton doc. Yep. That I'm familiar with.
Francis and Emily put together. You know, I can pull out my old first framework diagrams and lop off like talking to legal and briefing your sales team.
Hang on.
My fear of the P skeleton, because I looked at it yesterday, is that we have to define a lot of things, and I think that we really can't define most of it until we have like a survey or we have like intended targets, because it would be really hard to like define ingestion. I was trying to see if I could maneuver it, but it would be really hard.
So we know. Oh, I like that. It's going to be called Siren. Thank you. I am walking out of this meeting, and
Getting it now.
Pack call. I'm going to be doodling the goose. What was it? Oh, but we know no matter what we do on the back end, we have to have some type of ingestion process. So we have to have an intake, and we probably need some tools to help with that.
You need an output.
Well, we'll get there. We need some type of
These aren't,
triage. Once we get the issue, what's our bug bar, what's in scope, what's not in scope, and then we need some type of output, whether that's making a patch, that's negotiating with a researcher, it's writing an advisory, it's
pre-notification,
whatever. And I think it'll probably help us. We probably want to get, once we figure out what that is, we'll want to have a simple diagram when we show the GB art.
So I don't know if that was quote unquote exactly 3 services or not, and that's fine. To me, that is the core thing, that pipeline.
The engine.
And I would propose we say that's it for year 1. We're going to do that. I would say we do not propose anything further, and as I've personal experience, and I'm sure some of others, but you do that, and you pretty quickly, from your experience, figure out some other interesting and good ideas that you might need, and those are your year 2, year in things.
Well, and we have the whole section 1,
yes,
where we're getting all that feedback. So we're getting a lot of feedback to help us further refine or shape or create new. Yeah,
and we've captured a lot of other possible things, so we can leave all of that stuff and say year 1, this is the core focus. We'll learn from that. We'll learn from our feedback. We'll learn from the things we thought we might also do, already written down here, see later in the doc. I think that's a simple enough organization. And I think even in the open source world, where people are happy to not be too embargoed up, pre-notification is the simplest thing. And yes, in order to do that, you need all the things you just described. So no arguments there. Sorry.
Randall?
I've been privy to some conversations about GitHub advisories. So there might be a chance that we might be able to leverage that, because apparently a lot of people will use it. So they do have APIs and a bunch of stuff that they're integrating and releasing that are interesting to, if you were to want to kind of make like a meta cert. And another thing I wanted to point out, somewhat unrelated.
Well, we also have Vince that potentially could plug into that.
Correct. But another thing that I wanted to mention, and this might be good art. So Krob led a discussion about 2 years ago called the Joy of Coordinated Vulnerability discussion. It's in my section 1 PR. It's actually a really good video that'll condense.
It's okay.
It'll condense a lot in because there's a lot of point of views, and I got a lot of really good info from there, from both people that work in the industry, people that report stuff. There's a lot of good points of view there about for example, a lot of people get hostile about duplicate reports and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a very good video. I just wanted to make a plug because it's actually, I almost want to say it almost has everything section 1 in 1 hour. So
section 1 URL to video. Yeah.
I also saw one of your videos, to be honest with you, Art, and I enjoyed it, about Vince.
Oh yeah. No, thanks. Gosh, I lost it. Oh, sorry. A note. Pre-notification, almost any notification, post-notification with no embargo is still useful, because CVE or it didn't happen sorts of things happen, right? So, and I did this firsthand recently, and it was crazy to see that someone had patched something and not called it a security issue. Someone else had not noticed the patch downstream. No one had noticed farther downstream because there was no advisory, CVE, whatever to it. So post notification can also be pretty useful.
Absolutely.
When you find a missing supply chain thing that didn't happen. So
and that's, I feel, a real pain point for end consumers.
oh yeah.
Is, they don't know where to look, and they don't have the staff to go find all of their source streams. And if we can help, make those connections,
yep,
that might be a useful thing to do to help the world. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I just wanted to unlimit our plan
Yeah.
from only pre-notification, and I don't expect they're going to be long 90-day embargoes in this world, and no one likes them and no one wants them. In fact, we may have trouble with people keeping embargoes, and that's okay. I'm not even a judgment. Just I would expect very short embargoes, if any, on sort of an average sort of basis.
Well, and until year 5, I don't know that we're going to have an issue of impact that is that. I think initially we'll have some small to medium projects that need some help, and we can make some connections for them. And I think that's how we'll probably be starting up. But it's not going to be a heartbleed right out of the gate that we need to coordinate thousands of companies.
We're scheduling a heartbleed for month 3 of year. We have in section 2. This gets back to the 10 incidents a year sort of discussion. Do we want to attempt to estimate or characterize what we expect to happen, or do we want to just? I mean, it comes down to resources, though. Okay, the reason I ask is my former colleague Alan Householder has some work that he based on CERT-CC's data, which is only CERT-CC's data, but probably not surprisingly, it follows a pretty standard power law sort of thing, and you keep getting these there's a heartbleed, there's an SNMP, there's a big DNS one, and those come in 100 or 1,000 year flood distributions, and you get a bunch of rainstorms that no one has time to deal with, and they're small and not super important. One could do some sort of estimation based on that, but we're getting beyond my math skills, and I don't know if it's that helpful, but we do have a section in 2 of that. So yeah,
let's get our minimum viable set of services together, and then we can kind of talk through kind of tabletop what we think utilization would be, and then we can put an estimate for, because again, we're going to be all volunteers plus a couple staff, like a program manager. So we can kind of game out, we think we'll have, I mean, if we have data that says statistically that every year you've got this many criticals, or you have these embargoes were this long, that would be useful data to help us kind of refine that. Randall.
I think that it would be difficult to approach a project that we haven't approached before, and not to mention they might take it the wrong way. So I almost think that the goal that we should have is maybe say something like, we want to get 10 projects and then see what type of influx that creates, and then build off of that to see how many people we can service. It might be a way of measuring stuff.
And that's potentially where we talk with the Omega folks, which is the next 1,000 critical projects that aren't going to get the white glove treatment. So maybe we kind of reach out to some of those folks and say, talk about their problems. But I think we'll be collecting a lot of data that will help us for year 2 be much more accurate.
Fair. And Art, anything you have PSIRT education related, I've been on this PSIRT kick, so send it my way.
Yeah, I mean, oh shoot, never mind. We do have. Sorry, I did. I'm going to look for, again, former employer. We had a PSIRT 101 sort of training course, actually, and it's possible those materials are published somewhere. I will check and see if they are available.
If you guys want to hear a funny story, so Gen 2 tried to make an argument that the security team was a PSIRT, and then I pulled out the PSIRT document for first, And then there was a holy war about how we're not a PSERT and how can we miss something so basic. And yeah, this is why I love Gen 2. I love my time at Gen 2 because you get lots of points of views.
And then let me give, so the update on section 3 is Francis is going to be stepping back. He got some reprioritization at work. He's some new tasks he has to focus on. The section 3, we're basically kind of holding for example, picking our tech stack. So we can't pick any tools until we kind of know what services we're doing. So as these other things fall into place, we'll be able to make some adjustments to section 3. But from my perspective, section 3 is in a pretty good spot. We'll need to kind of talk more about the recruitment and then the legal aspect, getting the ethical wall set up and any kind of contracts and whatnot to protect all involved parties. But section 3 is in a decent spot. It's kind of holding for any major adjustments out of 1 and 2. And that's where I stubbed in the program manager to help facilitate the team if we get funding. Any questions on that? Okay. Any additional topics for the team we want to talk about today?
What is issue 1? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, give me 2 minutes and then I'll have something.
Okay. What is issue 1, Art? Well, let me tell you
Since we have 2 minutes free.
The first issue that is in our GitHub repository, and that is define how CERTs plan to engage with researchers and communities. This is a lot of the work that Randall has stubbed out. So we are looking for folks to be able to review that and add any feedback. And that way, then we can kind of refine that, get that into section 1 officially. So if you had any feedback on issue 1, which is the first issue.
I'm reading it now. Yes. That was
Did I stall?
Going to be my good guess.
And that's where I'm Randall and Emily's skeleton document stubbed in there. And we still need to, what Francis had put in, like what types of engagement we want to provide. I think we're getting closer to that. Do we want any kind of tiers of engagement to define that? How are we going to hand off? We'll definitely want to spend some time working on how we're going to hand off to other security teams. Was that long enough?
I'm busy typing into a comment into issue 1.
And then just so you all know, for the vulnerability disclosure working group, which is our mothership, I have a request in to set up some APAC meetings. And since we are associated with that group, there is the potential we might be able to recruit some additional collaborators from the APAC time zone. So as that develops, I'll let everybody know how that progresses. More people is better than less people.
More the merrier.
So was that long enough?
Yeah. So if we're ready, I filed a new issue on the repo.
A new issue.
With proposed language for a mission statement.
Oh, the CERT is to empower open source security teams. I'm sorry, hold on, let me get my radio voice.
The mission of the CERT is to empower open source security teams and open source projects to be self-sufficient and to apply learnings from engagement with the CERT. The CERT will be responsible for open source projects' requests for assistance, guidance, and support in handling, processing, communications, and general management of suspected and confirmed vulnerabilities and findings reported to them directly or by proxy in a manner that considers the community's existing response processes. The SIRT will not self-promote engaging a project unless significant critical concern has been expressed by the project's adopters in the handling and management of support reported security concerns. How's that? In
We know
a
you got-
world where there's a SIRT,
We know you got a side job as a voice actor there going, if this doesn't work out.
So I get paid to make silly little videos on the internet and play open source. I don't do anything except that.
I like it. I just think that last line about how, like, if people express too much concern, I could see how there could be pushback on that. Like, yeah. I can already tell you projects that would give you the pushback too, but
I really enjoy
Projects.
everything up to that sentence. I'd like to propose some rewording on that, but I liked the first several sentences.
agreed.
I have a, I hate to be not really a complaint, but I like the self-sufficient opening, but I should read more carefully first. There's a my gut reaction to that is we have a bunch of independent self-sufficient projects, which is a valid point and good. I don't think that is, well, anyway, I think there's more of a community, like we have to work together piece. And it's not that a project doesn't have its own, can't make its own decisions, can't be its own adult, can't work on its own recognizance, but there's sort of no way for a single project downstream of OpenFOO, that's library, to kind of go on their own. And I think that's where the SIRT can glue together the independent self-sufficient projects when needed on a case-by-case basis. So sorry, basically I'm reacting very much to that very first sentence. But it's a very quick first reaction, so just wanted to throw that out. There's not a lasting problem. Yeah.
Is with it written down, we now can refine
yes
and comment and make it better.
So
was fine, open.
what
Oh,
I'm
please,
hearing is a request to include more collaboration with the open source projects, either through the request for assistance, guidance, and support, or maybe general questioning, removal of the significant critical concern, because that is a execution detail that doesn't need to be included within the mission statement. What about the last part? In the course of serving open source projects, the CERT will consider all information provided, seek to understand any outside influences or additional factors to consider prior to engaging and rendering a decision on engagement and execution accordingly. So that one's good.
Like,
okay.
Yeah, not self-promoting. Sorry, the CERT will not self-promote the CERT or the project or the whole engagement, which is the
intent of of how that is structured is such that if, let's say, several consumers of an open source project were to come to the CERT and say, hey, we think that there's a real vulnerability with this project and the project is not doing anything about it, that we're not going to necessarily go knocking on their door unless it's like a
really
CVE
important
or really high and
got it.
Exactly.
Okay, sorry, understood. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah, so potentially even just kind of softening that and rewording a bit, that we still can probably hit that.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a commented update to it.
Okay. All right.
I would also say that the part where you say that we will respond, I think is a little aggressive because sometimes we might not be able to respond.
We'll consider,
Well, I think we definitely,
anyway.
if somebody talks to us, we can say,
we will. Yeah,
you've got your request. We'll see what we can do. We might not be able to resolve it,
but we can
No, I
definitely
think-
Fair, okay.
acknowledge them. We
No,
see,
no, good. Yeah, I retract that.
because that's again part
Okay.
of the problem with open source a lot of times is you shoot it off, it goes into a black hole and you never hear anything.
Krob has redefined the word respond as opposed to yes, all good.
Fair.
Yeah, no, that's
Fair.
better.
And I mean,
Yep.
the answer might be, hey, have you looked at this mailing list? Or, here's the Git repo where we can file an issue.
Or I'm sorry, we're swamped and
Yeah.
you can read some stuff, but
Yeah,
or,
here's
you
some
know,
guidance. Here's some
try this first, come back if you get stuck.
Yeah.
Sure. But we will not be a black hole and not answer you.
Man, not gonna.
Oh, close to time.
So the Mergoose will have like
And I'm
a
assuming that
like a little harp.
We have a lot of stuff in this icon. I mean, like a coat of arms. The Mergoose's left hand is holding a sheaf of.
Oh, we'll have like
and
little
I'm assuming, Emily, in this
oral read.
Trumpet, a trumpet for notification, trumpet, brass instrument. Don't you play a brass instrument, Krob? All right,
I play a
No.
little bass.
bass. Okay, sorry.
Figure out how I'd have the goose sit
Yeah,
with its tail.
just used. Test. Self-sufficient. Apply with alert from the CERT. Respond to requests directly or by proxy. Not self-promote and bang down doors unless it's really, really bad. And yeah, consider other things. Yeah. Empower to be self-sufficient. Learn from engagement with the CERT.
It's gonna be fun.
Oh, hold on. Are you showing something? Oh no. Thought
Not
you were showing
yet.
it. Show us your drawing. All right.
I just got a little scribble. I'll get it
Yeah.
on the iPad here in a little bit.
All right. A trumpet and a harp. Okay.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'll give us a couple options.
Oh, wait, 21. Right.
Scrap paper.
Emily, I think you're busy writing, so I don't hate to screw up your stream, but I'm trying to, since I had a concern, I wanted to help
You may go ahead. I
address
can
it.
listen and type.
I
She's
rarely
much better than I
can.
am.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that both just break down. I'm a broken record here, but I think the word coordinate or coordination would address my. Yes, we can all be self-sufficient and empowered and learn from our experiences, but when those shared issues come up, they are indeed shared. And if the CERT coordinates, it's a word we chose many years ago to mean, no, we're not telling you what to do. No, we're not being completely hands-off. For those who want to play, we're going to get the information shared and facilitate all of that, enable it, but not shove it down your throat. I propose the word coordination somewhere would address that, my thought there. And if you've already written something, then don't worry about it and we'll just look at it in a minute.
Okay.
Coordinate,
commented.
facilitate, coordinate, enable, reduce friction.
So how would I read what I have?
Oh, sure.
The mission of the CERT is to empower and coordinate open source security teams and open source projects to be self-sufficient and apply learnings from engagement with the CERT. The CERT will respond and collaborate with open source projects' requests for assistance, guidance, and support. Through the CERT's offerings, open source projects may expect to receive helpful and inclusive recommendations or direction in the handling, processing, communications, and general management of suspected and confirmed vulnerabilities and findings reported to them, directly or by proxy, in a manner that considers the project's existing response processes. In the course of serving open source projects, the CERT will consider all information provided, seek to understand any outside influences or additional factors to be considered prior to engaging, and render a decision on engagement and execution accordingly. The CERT shall balance the needs and constraints of the projects requesting support, as well as the needs of the consumers of those projects to the practical extent possible.
Love it.
Nothing immediately jumps out at me.
Yay.
Yeah, very nicely done.
So I would recommend then that this comment be solicited to the mailing list for a 2-week public period of comment and then voted on.
Agreed. Would you like to write the email to the group?
I can certainly do that.
I have a goose to draw. Very important. All right. Any other top? Thank you very much for that, Emily. That's excellent work. Really appreciate that. Are there any other topics we want to discuss in our last few minutes together? All right. Thank you. We'll talk tomorrow at 10. Art, do you want to send out a meeting or shall I?
You have a Zoom power, right?
Don't.
Oh, how are we doing?
I have the amazing power of Teams.
Oh, I have the amazing power of Teams also. Okay.
Can't we just reuse this one?
Yes, we can.
We're still in the calendar thing though.
Secret,
Steal this
secret,
URL
not a secret.
and send a calendar thing to the people present.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I will make that happen. So
Thank you.
thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your days.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.